Hey, just a heads up that the following content may be disturbing or triggering for some listeners and is not appropriate for children. Please take care of yourself and others who may be listening with you. Welcome to the Bonus Babies Podcast, a show that has no easy answers, only hard questions.
Music saved my life as a kid, teenager, adult, fully. It gives me, it's never let me down. It's the way, if I felt I couldn't express myself, I could express myself. And I could be fearless through that. And just listening to music as much as I did as a kid. And music connects people too, right? Like, you know, like we go to a concert and people are just really connected. I think it's so incredibly important to our development, just as a civilized society, you know, to have that ability to express in a different way. Conversations are hard. Music is actually a very good way to connect and help break those doors down.
Can you tell me what you call the kids who you've cared for over the years?
We feel that the children that we receive coming into our home are bonuses. So we call them bonus babies.
I love that. This is your host, Jayne Amelia Larson, and I'm a CASA, a court-appointed special advocate volunteer for youth in foster care. Yeah, I know it's a mouthful. In the same way a CASA works, I explore all things in the foster care maze by talking to kids, parents, caregivers, attorneys, social workers, therapists, really anybody and everybody who will speak to me to keep the conversation open and the information flowing about all things CASA.
Hi, this is Jake Eberly, the producer of the Bonus Babies podcast, and today Jayne Amelia speaks with Mike Wiskar. Mike was adopted at a very early age and had a very supportive childhood in Saskatchewan, Canada. His parents adopted a baby girl, and then a couple of years later, he was adopted. They grew up just like siblings. He got into music at a very early age, and it was a very liberated form of expression. And today, music is his world. Here's Mike Wiskar.
Hey, I'm here with Mike Wiskar. Hi. Do you ever wish your name was Whiskey?
You know, it kind of was Whiskey when I was a kid. That's what they called me.
Oh, really? That was your nickname?
It's a name that's very easy to make lots of fun of all my life.
Oh.
So I actually, for a long time, wished it was something completely different. We can get into that.
So please tell me about yourself. How were you raised? Where are you from?
I was raised in Saskatchewan in Canada. It's one of the prairie provinces. It's right in the middle. It's the one that just looks like an apron. They just went, oh, let's just do a square.
Right. It's just like the flatlands, right?
It is very, very flat where I'm from. In southern Saskatchewan, where I'm from, I'm pretty close to the American border, actually. It's very flat. It's mostly farming, if not like all farming. Saskatchewan has a couple, what the biggest cities are, but they're only maybe 200, 250,000, maybe 300. So even the big cities are not that big. And so, yeah, where I grew up, it was only 16,000 people.
Right. Small town.
Small town, but considered a city in Saskatchewan. So,
yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
What was your family of origin, or how were you raised? I know you were adopted, but tell me about how that happened.
My dad is the youngest of 5 boys. So he was the last to get married in his family. Met my mom in high school and in this little town. And so they knew each other for a long time and got married when they were 20. And tried to have kids and found that they were having difficulties and couldn't have kids. So they decided to adopt. And I don't think the process took too long then. It was a few years, which was excruciating for them. But they adopted my sister first. She's 2 years older than me. And then I showed up 2 years later. And we had a little family. So
right. So is this from the same area or
the same area? They had to go into Regina, which is the capital city of Saskatchewan, which is 2.5 hours away. So you're basically driving through nothingness for about 2.5 hours. We actually make note of a tree. If you see a tree, you actually like put your hands on the
wow, it's a tree. Wow.
You know, it really is like that.
That's really funny.
Yeah. So the adoptions were done in Regina. So. And they told me right from, as long as I can remember, when they went to go get me at the hospital in Regina, and they were so happy to bring me home. And my sister was so happy to meet me, her little brother. So, yeah, it was never a news to me. And it didn't really mean anything.
It didn't come up in school, or didn't come up like on holidays, or?
My family never really, it wasn't like it was a secret, but it wasn't talked about. And there were plenty of kids on my street that I grew up on who were adopted as well.
Oh, and wow, that's cool. That's great.
Yeah, not that I ever talked to those kids about being adopted ever, but sort of not because it was uncomfortable. It's just, you're kids. You just are like, oh, okay. Like, oh, Carrie's adopted. But the feeling in the neighborhood was that if you were adopted, you were special.
Like special in a good way.
Yeah. Like, oh, this family, and they who had 5 kids. Oh. Now the youngest girl is adopted. And it was like, it was like that. So,
gosh, that's awesome. That's the way it should be. And I don't think it is all the time.
Yeah, there was never a stigma to it. And all the kids in the neighborhood who were adopted knew they were adopted. I only had one friend who I did not know was adopted, who found out in high school, and it was a very bad reaction.
Oh, really? Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, they told him like in grade 12, and he did not take it well. I really felt bad for him.
Yeah, that's right. To find out everything's not what you thought, right?
Yeah, yeah. I didn't mind knowing that my sister wasn't my genetic sister. You know what? She was still my sister. We still fought, and we still threw things at each other, and we still had fun. It just didn't make any difference at all. I mean, I physically look very different from my family. And that was kind of cute, sort of. Like, I don't know. I thought it was hilarious. It was me, this tall, blonde kid with these little meatballs. I can
see, because now you aren't saying this out loud, but you're a pretty handsome guy. So maybe,
thank you.
Maybe it was like, I'm better looking than them, and yay on me, like that kind of thing.
I was very shy as a kid. I was a little blonde thing, and I was very shy. I was just like attached to my dad's leg all the time. I shot up when I was 12. You hit puberty and you get real big, but I didn't have any awareness of looking any different in that way. I was in bands, and I thought, everybody likes me because I'm in bands. I'm a singer, and I could play guitar, and that saved my life through the whole thing. So
okay, all right. So that's cool too, because it always helps if you have like a superpower or a special skill or any of that.
The superpower. And I don't know if I think I have mentioned this to you before. Being adopted was nothing compared to holding the secret that I was gay, which I figured out very young, and thought, I'm not really their kid, so I can never let anyone know this, because it would be a reason to get rid of me, to just disconnect from me somehow. But I think every gay kid, well, not I don't want to speak for everybody, but has that fear of abandonment if the family finds out.
Right.
And it's small town Saskatchewan. And I got to say this too. I didn't really experience any homophobia, not towards myself or even towards other people where I grew up. And this was the early 70s. It just wasn't something people thought about, I don't think. It wasn't.
But you still kept it a secret, or you didn't feel a need to keep it a secret? You just didn't have it out?
I felt a need to keep it a secret because I thought, if they're not happy with it, because I'm not a genetic kid, they could just dismiss me.
Right. That's what you said. Yeah.
But it would have been in a small town. I didn't know any other gay kids, so I felt.
And did you know you were gay, or did you just know it was?
Oh no, I knew I was gay. Yeah.
You.
Oh yeah.
Right. You had the words, and you knew. Right.
I had the words by the time I was 12 or 13. Yeah.
Wow.
And
really?
It wasn't because of TV or anything. I just knew.
You just knew. Yeah. So, do you think they knew?
They did not. When I came out, when I was 18, because I was off at school, and I was like, okay, they can't kick me out of the house because I'm already out of the house.
Yeah.
And they were like, no idea. My dad was like, okay.
How about your sister? Did she know?
I took my sister out. We had a cabin at a lake, and I took her out in the paddle boat in the middle of the lake, and I said, so this friend is coming to visit next week. That's actually my boyfriend. And she was like, well, that explains a lot.
Right.
But that was about it. I think it was harder for my mom and my sister because they had ideas about what my kids are going to look like and what my wife is going to look like. And I just didn't really think about that stuff. He was just like, oh, we'll be happy. They knew I was pursuing music. They were very happy for me to be pursuing music, and I was doing pretty well. So they were like, oh, just, but yeah, I kind of crushed some expectations there. It took them a while to get used to it, but it wasn't like a homophobic thing and you're twisted or whatever. I think it just was sort of, they had to readjust their dreams about what my life was going to be,
Right. Well, and I remember you saying that you were like pretty happy when you were growing up. You felt loved and wanted and all that, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's if you can grow up in a family that doesn't have any money and not know you don't have any money, that's pretty good.
Yep. Yeah, that is good.
We didn't have a lot of stuff or anything, but I didn't feel like I needed anything. I remember my mom telling me this story. I went to the dentist, and I do remember doing this. And she said, oh, you were so good. You had a tooth pulled and you didn't cry and you were really good. And I was like, oh, okay. And she goes, let's go get you a toy. And I was like, I don't want anything. And she's like, we're going to go get you a toy. And she just had all this trouble. Do you want
persuading you to accept something?
Yeah, I just was like, I don't need anything. I have like stuff at home. I don't know what it was.
All right, I'm curious now. So is that just your temperament, you think, or you learned that?
I gotta be honest, I am kind of that way as an adult as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's very easy. That's nice. A lot of people, like, no matter how much they have or get, it's never enough. It's never enough. It's never enough.
We just weren't like that. And the whole family's not like that. Like the whole extended family we're just not like that. So
it sounds very Canadian,
I think it's very Canadian. I think of the prairies.
To an American, it sounds really Canadian. Yeah.
Like I tell people, it's minus, this is Celsius, but it's like minus 45 in the winter and plus 45 in the summer. Like it's excruciatingly hot and then excruciatingly cold. I said, people are there. They're not there because it's a great time. It's people who got farms because they fought in the war and now they got parcels of land, or they were desperate immigrants and they came out and they settled this really rough territory. And so the spirit is sort of community and helping each other. It's not about getting ahead because, well, where are you going to go if you have a bigger house on the same flat land? Like, it's just, we don't have that mentality where I grew up anyway. I mean, that might have changed. I left in 1983, so.
Right. But, we need a little more of that in Los Angeles, I have to say.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that could be fostered in a city that really does offer the dreams, right? Like, if you're there, you can do it. It's there. So, where I grew up, that's not what it's about. You want to get through this winter.
Right. So as a child, did you know kids that were being fostered? Did you have any sense of that?
No. I mean, the closest I got, we did have neighbors who referred to their son Kevin as a foster child.
I see.
And I didn't quite understand that. I assumed it was the same as being adopted. Because fostering to me felt like he was there temporarily. I just that was my understanding of the word when I was a child. So this is a sad story. He and his the foster child, there was a car accident, and we lost two of the kids from that family in that car accident while they were still young. So I never really got to see their lives play out or find out what anything about how he felt about that. But yeah, I did know just a lot of adopted kids, but fostering, I don't think really happened a lot in my town. I know in the city where I was adopted from, in Regina, people were fostering kids all the time.
Right.
When I was born, and I was put into like a foster situation, but only for a few months. And I don't know if that could have carried on had there not been someone there to adopt me right away. So,
well, you were a baby, and babies are very adoptable. The real problem now is finding a home for young boys, even a foster home for young boys.
We didn't, and because of the low population, and we just didn't see that happening.
Yeah, that's a blessing, really. So, I know that things changed for you regarding your family and what you learned. Can you tell me a little bit about that? How did you find where you're from?
Okay, I always was curious. And every time I brought it up with my mom, the tears would come. So,
Ah,
Lori,
mm-hmm.
I love you, and I'm like, okay, I get it. We don't talk about this,
Really? Oh, really?
especially as
Oh.
I got older. However, about, let's say, I guess it was 2016. Yeah, it was early 2016. I was back in Saskatchewan visiting, and my mother told me that the laws had changed. The law used to state that if you gave up a baby, that baby had no way to find you, and it was illegal for you to even attempt to find that child.
Illegal? Really? Wow.
Illegal.
Wow.
You cannot do it. You cannot disrupt this child's life.
Right. So a
So,
closed adoption. Right. Yeah.
yep.
On both ends. Mm-hmm.
So suddenly in 2016, the government said, okay, we've had a lot of requests for this, and people are saying it's kind of inhumane to disallow people to do a search. So they actually helped and brought out the records and helped people connect. They were the go-between. So they made the calls, and my mom came to me and she goes, so the government changed the laws, and you can now search for your family if you want. And I went, oh, it made me very uncomfortable. I was like, she gonna start crying? She didn't.
Right. Because you were a grown-ass man by this time.
I was grown ass man. I was in my 50s. And
Wow. Yeah. Okay.
I said, well, if this is with your blessing, she goes, yeah. She goes, I'll help you help connect. So we filled out the forms together, and within 6 months, they had found my mom, my birth mother, and said, okay, we found her. She's healthy. She said, oh, and that was the other thing. My mom said, I feel like that I blocked you from doing this for so long. And she said, your dad and I are in our 80s, so I don't want to keep you. I'm hoping she hasn't passed away. And she apologized for keeping me from looking. I said, okay, well, I'll get on this. Because I didn't really know how old she was. She could have been gone. But yeah, they found her. And they reached out, and just a phone call. And apparently, her name's Adina. She was sitting at the table with her son, Jay, and she picked up, and they go, hi, this is the government of Saskatchewan. And she's in Ontario now.
Oh my gosh.
And has told no one that she had a baby when she was young.
And there was no prep for this for her. They just make a call.
Yeah. So she picks up. They're like, this is the government of Saskatchewan. And she says, well, why would I? Oh, hold on. She left the room. She
Wow.
goes, baby. And they're like, yeah. And she's like, okay. They said he's open to search. He's open to meeting if you would like. Dave could send her my information. And if she wanted, she could reciprocate and send her information, and we could connect. And then they would give each other's phone numbers if we still wanted to connect. And she said, okay, I need to think about this for a few weeks and make some phone calls. Well, she called them back in 10 minutes and said, yeah, let's do it. So, yeah.
So how did your adoptive mom feel about that?
I think she was happy for me, but yeah, she had trouble with it. I think for her, they tried so hard to have kids for so long, and then they finally got us. And we really were trouble-free kids. I'm going to blow her.
Yeah, they won the lottery. They probably
really
felt
were, and still are. So I don't know why she just felt like, oh, we're going to lose you, and you're just going to go to your family. Like
even as a grown man, after all the love you've shared between you, there was part of her that was afraid somehow you were going to turn away from her.
Yeah, I'd be like, oh, thanks, you guys. I found him. So
yeah, I found the real mom.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow, that's.
And we did connect. We talked on the phone. We talked forever. We felt like talking to a friend.
Really? So like immediately there was a connection?
Immediately. Yeah.
Immediately. You didn't, it wasn't like that awkwardness and, I
No.
don't know if I'm going to like you. And, why did you do that?
No.
No?
No.
Wow.
It was like straight into it.
See, you didn't feel abandoned. That's the thing. A lot of kids feel abandoned, but you don't have that, do you?
I had a brief phase of it around, actually post this. They did reach out to find my father, my
Ah,
father,
yeah.
who denied any of it ever happened, despite
He
him.
was a player, right? He was a player.
Yeah. So after finding my biological mother, they said, okay, and Adina and I connected and we chatted, and then they said, do you want us to go ahead and try to find your dad? And by now, Adina's told me my father's name and a little bit about him and what happened. And she was very young. He was a traveling fur salesman. He also...
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
He played guitar and sang. Like, she was like hook, line, and sinker. She was just...
So you got it honest from your dad.
I guess so. I am the only person in my family who is a musician who has that.
Yeah, you got it from your dad.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff I'm glad I didn't get from my dad, or I hope I didn't. He denied the whole thing. On the paperwork that I received, he'd been into the adoption agency with girls more than a few times. So,
right, he had a history.
I tell Adina that, she wasn't the only one that he'd gotten in trouble.
So you knew that, but Adina didn't?
I knew, yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's not good information to share, probably.
No, they used the word cad in his description.
In the paperwork? Cad? Wow.
This fella's been in here before. He's a cad. He's gotten all these girls in trouble.
Oh my gosh.
Right? Yeah. I mean, they did say he was very charming, though.
Yeah, charming, good looking, probably tall and blonde.
He was tall and blonde and a musician. Okay.
And he was just meeting pretty girl after pretty girl after pretty girl.
On the road, selling them fur coats. Yeah.
Right.
So the family did not like him. I have met aunts and uncles from Adina's side, and they were like, he wasn't a good guy. He was,
Yeah.
But yes, he denied the whole thing. Said, I kind of remember her, but I don't think he wasn't interested. So I had a bit of a angry moment around that. I could not fathom someone being like that. It's not a child looking for you for support. This is an adult just wanting to answer some questions and maybe whatever.
Yeah, just learn. Yeah, just learn about him or learn more about yourself, maybe, right?
Yeah, what happened there? And, I'm not blaming. I'm not out for anything. I just wanted to close that chapter, get some closure, right?
Yeah, but I would imagine that probably he'd been lying to himself for so long that he didn't want to have it any other way.
Yeah, and he probably had a number of kids trying to find him, especially as the law had changed. And
that's right. There might have been a handful of them.
Yeah.
Wow.
I did have a moment of, my ego got in there, and I was like, okay, you don't know what you have a son, like a grown son who's fine, like
in spite of you, right?
In spite of you and all the stuff you did, But no, he didn't want any contact whatsoever, and I was fine with it. So
you were never able to make a connection with him?
No. I mean, when he pretended he didn't really remember my biological mom, I was like, okay, you're a terrible person. You know what?
When this drops on the podcast, let's send it to him.
Let's see, that was 2016. He might still be alive. He would definitely be well into his 80s by now. So.
Yeah, but that might be the time where he'll say, yeah, you're right. You're right. I don't know why I've lied all these years. So a few weeks ago, we were set to record, and unfortunately, you heard some horrible news. So can you tell me about that? What happened?
So there were some strange coincidences with meeting Adina. Adina's heritage and my mother's heritage, both Norwegian, both prairie ladies. I cannot tell their handwriting apart. Everyone knows their mother's handwriting. They have identical handwriting. They both were smokers, and unfortunately, on top of all these lovely things, my mothers have COPD. Yeah. So Adina was worse than my mom. My mom got some help with hers quite a while ago. But I just thought, oh my God, they're almost the same person. Like, it was very strange, which is maybe why I felt immediately could talk to it, like immediately. And last fall, so because of COVID, of course, there was no visiting. And these are seniors, so there's really no visiting.
Really.
So I had planned a trip out there for this June. And in December of last year, Adina's lungs started giving out. The sacs were big. She wasn't getting any capacity, problems with capacity. And she was put into a facility to help her with that. And it looked like things were going to be fine. And even speaking with my half siblings, they were like, oh, my brother was like, oh, she's got like 10 years. My sister was like, maybe a couple of years. And my auntie was like, 6 months tops. And so I kind of went into the denial phase and thought, 10 years. And then very quickly, about a month ago, her lungs just gave out and they had to put her on a machine and a lot of painkillers. And I FaceTimed with her once, and she was very loopy. We used to text a lot. She couldn't text anymore. Mm-hmm. And she didn't really want me to see her like that, but she said she allowed this one FaceTime because she kind of knew she wasn't going to last. And passed away moments before we were to start the podcast. She turned 80 on Monday and passed away on Wednesday. Yeah. And really her birthday is the same day as my sister's and my nephew's. So I'm not going to forget her birthday. So I wasn't able to see her for almost 4 years.
So you never were able to meet her in person?
She has a sister who lives out here in Vancouver. And so whom she would visit regularly. She would come out at least twice a year. And I used to go to Toronto quite a bit for work. So we actually saw each other quite a bit there, but for only maybe 3 years.
I see.
And I'm still very close with her sister here, Lois. So we decided to meet, and we're going to go back in time a little bit. 2017. She's here. We're going to meet. She's an elderly lady who doesn't know Vancouver that well. She says, let's meet at this specific restaurant in Coquitlam, which is a suburb. I said, okay, I know exactly the one. It's like an hour away. I get out there. She's not there. And I'm texting her. I'm like, okay, I'm in the restaurant. She goes, okay, me too. I'm like, I'm at the doorway. I don't see you. I said, well, where are you sitting? She goes, okay, well, walk right. I go, right. She goes, I'm 2 tables in. And it's this table, this man and this woman with their kids. And I said, okay, something's really wrong. And we're both panicking now, right? We're like, this is how we're going to meet. And
you have all this anticipation, right?
Yeah. And she doesn't really know how to use her cell phone very well. So like the communication was all garbled. I said, can you ask the waitress what the address of that restaurant is? She goes, yes. She goes, oh, it's Burnaby, not Coquitlam, a whole different city.
Oh, no.
Yeah. I'm like, how could this happen?
Oh, no.
So I said, I will get there. I will be there. It's going to be like at least 3 minutes. Yeah. And I got there and I walked in and she was sitting there. And the funny thing is, when I was late, she called her sister and said, he's just like his father.
Oh!
He's late.
Oh.
So I show up and I walk in and she did say, you're red like your dad, your chest. She goes, your dad had a red chest.
That's really funny. So you have this whole extended family now that you wouldn't have had.
Yeah. There's lots of them now that I'm thinking about it. Jayne, when you've never seen someone who looks like you, I felt like my feet touched the ground for the first time in my life. Makes me a little emotional right there. Even though growing up, it was very welcoming and it was a great family, but you kind of always feel extra. You're like the little balloon that someone's carrying, and they love that balloon, right? This balloon's going everywhere with us, but you don't feel everyone else has they're collected and they're, and then I saw my family, and especially when I saw my auntie, I almost looked exactly like her, except for the mustache. And I saw my brother, who does know all this, and everybody said, when I met Jay, everybody said, Jay's not a hugger. He's like, and grouchy, and he's really quiet. We walked in the room, we looked at each other, and we just slowly walked over, and we just like hugged for like 10 minutes. And the whole room cleared, and this little laughed. They couldn't believe
wow.
somebody.
Wow.
And, he too, like, Jay lost his father when he was 13. And so he kind of was the only boy, and he was kind of devastated. And he didn't know he had a big brother. And I think this was a really big moment for him. And it was certainly a really big moment for me too. And the sense of belonging, not only just to a family, but like here.
Yeah, like in space, in the world.
In the world,
like I have roots now, even though you felt loved and wanted, and you love your adoptive family. Yeah. This is a whole new thing opening up for you.
Absolutely. And I felt this sense of history, even though it was an odd history, it was still my history. Like, I know my history now.
Yeah.
This family, then Adina had a baby, and then I went with this family, but like now there was a line which actually began at my birth. Like, what's the rest of it? How did I get, like, even though I never, like, I'm not one to sit and ruminate about that kind of thing, but to have those questions answered changed everything. It just changed how I move about in the world. I feel like I belong here. I am here. I have rights, and my people pleasing went out the window. I used to be a terrible people pleaser. Gone.
Really? So that changed because of this. Wow.
Yeah. I think it's so important to allow people to understand their history, even if it's terrible. My mother was heartbroken by this man. He, they held on to me for a few weeks. She was hoping they would get married, and he just like vanished. And I'm like, oh God, like the original ghoster, right? Like with a baby. I'm so angry with that man. But she had a wonderful life. Anyway, she had a couple more kids, has a really wonderful family. I was able to give her some closure. For sure she wondered about that baby all her life.
Yeah, she must have longed for you.
She remembered a lot about it. That was what was weird too. She remembered me, but of course I didn't remember her. She remembered I have one weird finger that doesn't have a knuckle in it. Like, she remembers things like that, right? Like as a baby, because you always have your hands like this. I have my one knuckle. And just like, she knew me. And I was like, oh my God, this is somebody who like knew me then. Like, had that bond with me for 9 months or 10 months, for as long as she tried to keep me, and it made me feel like I belonged here. And I had never felt that before. I always knew I was welcome here, but I didn't know I belonged here. It was a big
interesting distinction. Yeah, interesting. Yeah. But gosh, what a gift for her that must have been too.
Yeah, I sent my brother a note after she passed away, and I said, I'm so grateful that I was able to have these few years with her and meet you guys. And he said, yeah, Mike, she was really grateful too. It really was some closure for her around that. And she carried it as a secret. She didn't want to tell her kids because she thought, I don't want to burden them with knowing they have a brother out there. They're just going to have this mystery hanging around them and not be able to ever figure it out. So, yeah. So I was a very big surprise for them.
But a good surprise too, which is so great.
Really, my sister said to me, the day I went out and I met my half siblings for the first time, she's like, today was just a tester. And I said, oh, I had to get it. She goes, just to see if you're a dud. She goes, well, now I can introduce you to my friends.
Wow, that's funny. That's great.
Well, nothing like honesty.
Okay, so there's been nothing from the dad's side. Have you
No,
met any of his side of the family or anything? You just figured
nothing.
if he didn't claim you, you're like, you know what? He's a jerk. I'm not going there.
From the stories from my mom's family, because they did know of him, they knew how head over heels she was, and they really disliked him. And I think they're being very kind with their words. I think they're being very gentle with their words. They really disliked him.
I see. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't want to. I would like to see him. I would like to, see him across, at a bar, at a restaurant or something. Just go, that's the guy, and that's it. I don't think I want any contact. He sounds toxic, and I'm fine with leaving that alone. I'm perfectly fine with not inviting anything like that into my life. So.
So have you had any kids?
No.
No.
Would
And you
have.
haven't fostered? Yeah, you would have if you had found the right partner. You think you would have had kids?
I think if the timing had been right, I would have wanted them in my maybe late 20s, 30s. But I'm 60 next year, and I mean the laws only changed a little while ago, and I was in my 20s and 30s during like the AIDS crisis. So
Yeah, it's a tough time. Wow.
Marriage was not legal. There was a lot of
Yeah.
animosity towards the community, and it was a survival game for a couple decades there. And a lot of people were not out. It was very rare to find a partner who was outside of like the protected community in a large city, to go out anywhere, who felt really comfortable being out. Yeah, the whole thing just wasn't going to happen. I'm not bitter about it. I mean, that was just what we were going through at the time. I mean, by the time I found a partner who would have wanted to, I was in my late 40s. I'm like,
He's like, nah, I'm too tired now. I'm not doing it.
By then, my sisters had kids. By then, my nephews were having kids. And I knew I didn't have the energy because when my nephews were little kids, I was daddy of the year. But then they had kids, and I'm like, no, I'm just grandpa now. Like, I don't have the energy.
I'll hang out for 3 hours and then I'll give you back. Right.
I do believe this is yours. Yeah.
And it needs to be changed.
Yeah. And I love those kids. But yeah, they wear me out. So, and it's ironic as well, because at this age you're taking care of elderly parents who are basically little kids again. So
yes.
Yeah. So you can't win. So in my own way, I do have sort of kids right now. I'm taking care of my mom.
Yeah. Well, I asked because I think you'd probably have been a great dad.
I would love to have been a dad. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're not like your bio dad that way, which is great. You're probably like your adoptive dad.
Yeah. He wanted to make kids. I wanted to raise them. I didn't necessarily want to make them. Yeah, and sometimes I'm kicking myself because in my 20s, I did meet a few women who wanted to have a kid but not get married, right? Like they were like, this would be so easy, Mike. Why don't we have a kid? That kind of thing. And I think about it now, and I'm like, oh, God, I would have had a kid who's like 36 years old right now. I'd probably be the grandpa. But again, different time. And
well, I'm just curious. Was there ever a time when you slept with women?
No.
Not at all. So there's not a chance there's one out there.
No.
Because I think that's always great about men. I mean, even men pretty responsible.
Yeah.
If they sleep with a lot of women, or just some women, even a handful,
right.
Women don't often tell the truth, so there's,
yeah.
I mean, I have friends who found out later that they have kids they didn't know about that they would have wanted to know about. But
I've heard of that happening too.
Yeah.
I actually know a few women who are like, no, I'm not telling.
Yeah. I don't want him in my life. I want the kid, but I don't want him.
Well, in that way, that's a whole other debate, right? Like who I know, is in charge of that kid? Like, isn't that a little bit like kidnapping? Because that's
a little bit.
That's a whole other thing. Like,
it's like, I'm just going to take this one part of you that you don't know I have.
Like if the man did it.
And goodbye.
And I don't want you. Like, it just wouldn't happen. I mean, I understand it happening. Like, you got pregnant, you can go away, you can secretly have a kid. But yeah, no, no, that window's closed for me. But just like working in education for kids in primary schools plugs me into a kid's mind. And before COVID, I was around a lot of kids and working with them kids. And I was like, okay, this is my fathering as far as this is my input as far as that need in me to do that. So yeah, I don't feel like I missed out because I feel like I'm still actually quite involved in children's development. So
that's good. That's really important. That's really important.
It's very satisfying work. Yeah, I mean, I grew up thinking, I'm going to be like a rock star or something. Like, I just wanted to be playing rock music.
Of course.
Which then went into theater and then some TV stuff, and then sort of came back around to like education for kids through songs, and so much more satisfying than any of the other work I've ever done, to tell you the truth. Like, what is all that? It's not, you're not giving back. You're not creating something that's going to, live on and be helpful. So, I mean, that's just me personally feeling that way. Yeah. Anybody can do what they want, but like, yeah. So.
Yeah, for sure. Sure. It's so wonderful when you see that you make a connection with a kid and you bring something out in them, or you help them discover something about themselves.
Yeah. And, music saved my life as a kid, teenager, adult, fully. It gives me, it's never let me down. It's the way, if I felt I couldn't express myself, I could express myself, and I could be fearless through that. And just listening to music as much as I did as a kid. And music connects people too, right? Like, like we go to a concert and people are just really connected. I think it's so, so incredibly important to our development, just as a civilized society, to have that ability to express in a different way. Conversations are hard. Music is actually a very good way to connect and help break those doors down. So no, I don't regret any part of it. Even the really difficult parts, trying to get work as a musician or trying to get work as a gay musician, because people.
Yeah, it's hard to be an artist, for sure. Yeah.
I was out way too early. Like, I don't know where my confidence came from, but like, I was searching for a record deal in 1990, and I was not in the closet. But and it's just not a thing. Like, they were like, we love you, but we don't know what to do with you. Like, could you shut up about that? And I'm like, well, it's not like I talk about it all the time, but I'm not going to.
But it's part of me, right? Yeah.
This person, when I actually have a partner of 4 years, you know what I mean? Like, it was.
Yeah. Wow.
But I stuck to who I am, and maybe it was tougher, but it's tough for everybody. That business, and I was very, very happy to have timed the meeting of my biological mother with me getting through the worst of those struggles and being on my feet and saying, hey, look what you did. Like,
I'm okay, Mom. Yeah, I'm okay.
If I'd met her 10 years earlier, or I was still struggling, or I was angry or hurt or whatever. So no, the timing was very, very good for that. See, that was my pleasing. Do you see that?
Yeah. I get it. So I want to ask you one last thing that I ask all my guests.
Sure.
And what is the one thing that no one would ever know about you unless you told them?
Oh, well, this is quite personal, but I'm not ashamed of it. But I think that when people know me, even if they've known me for a long time, they would never guess how much I've struggled with depression. And I've, had lots of therapy around it, and I'll get through episodes of it. But I'm a pretty energetic, outgoing person. Yeah, no one would ever guess that
I would never have guessed that. Just in really all my interactions so far, there has been nothing that would suggest that's part of you. In fact, I think you were really kind of just rolling with the punches.
Yeah. I was embarrassed that the punches would get me down at all, because I do come from an area where certainly didn't talk about depression. I didn't think even use the word depression. It was just, my life's hard and you keep going. And so I had that mentality. And so when things were hard, and things were hard, the AIDS crisis, my first partner died. Like it just, that's a lot for a kid. And getting into the music industry, and then the whole, it has been very, very tough. And there were multiple periods. It's only because there have been multiple periods where the depression got really severe. But yeah, like I would not tell my biological family that I suffer from depression.
You mean, so it's almost like not quite shameful, but too much for them to know.
It would be too much. And I think they don't understand what it is. I've told my sister, but it's, well, just cheer up. I mean, I don't want to hear that, right?
I know. Isn't it funny how people are like that? Like, well, just do something nice for yourself and then you'll feel better.
Yeah.
Go shopping. No, that doesn't really do it.
No. And it's on this, and I can sometimes think, oh God, why are you doing this to yourself? Like it's on this existential level. Like I want to know everything and there are no answers. And so the lack of answers makes me deeply sad and confused and not knowing which way to go, and have I done the right things in my life? And but now I'm, again, like I said, I'm turning 60 next year. And I look back and I'm like, yeah, I did all the right things in my life for me. There's no way that could have been better. It just was what it was, and very difficult at many times. I don't know what I look at, okay, I'm going to bring this around to like genetics again. My biological mom is so adventurous. And I just like got in a truck and moved to Montreal. I didn't speak French. And then a guy I was dating at the time said, oh, they want to send me to Japan. I go like, let's go to Japan. So we went and lived in Japan for 6 years. Well, him for 2.5. I stayed, and it was crazy. Like, just what are you doing? And then I moved to Vancouver, and then I bought a place. Like, it's just this, and it wasn't impulsive. That sounds really impulsive, but I was definitely planning, but just the adventure of it, which is why I can look back at my life and say, no, I did. All those things were crazy and they were very, very difficult, especially the first year, but you did it and you're not going to regret it, like at all. So, yeah. I mean, I could look back and say, oh, I regret that I didn't have kids. But that circumstance just didn't show up, and it just wasn't, like it just.
Yeah. It sounds like that was the right thing.
Yeah. And also I when I do think about, okay, Daddy would have been unable to get out of bed in a couple of days. Like when I think of that, I'm like, I don't want to put a kid through that. Wouldn't even want to put.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a really good point because kids need you.
Yeah, I wanted a handle on that, and I'm going to be honest, I've never really gotten a handle on it. It's something that creeps in, but I'm still here.
Yeah, so. Yeah, it's probably always going to be there a little bit, and you've learned how to live through it, right?
Yeah, and every time it comes, I can now reference like 4 other times, and I can be like, this is just for now, and I know right now you feel like you can't even find the energy to eat, and it doesn't happen so often that people would even really, I can hide it. I can be like, well, I'm going to be unavailable for a couple of days or whatever.
Oh yeah, say, I'm just really busy for a bit.
Really busy is a good one. Yeah.
Wow, so you just flat out lie about it too.
I lie about it.
Yeah, you have to, because otherwise people want to get in you, right?
When it first started happening, which was in my teens, actually, of course you're living at home, and my mom was like, "Oh, you think too much," and blah blah blah, and I'm like, "But I just don't like." It would be this bleak. I don't know what I'm doing, and not helpful. And I learned that people, unless it's a professional, they're not going to be helpful.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. So now everyone knows.
Now everyone will know pretty soon.
I actually think it is important that, like, I have talked to people closest to me. Again, not family members so much, because you can't really talk to people who are invested in your recovery, because they're gonna just want you to be better, right?
Yes.
So I do have the people that I can talk to about it. you just keep going, you know, you just, try not to indulge in things. And
it's really interesting to be, I'm sorry the audience can't see you right now because the way that your shades are, the light hitting your face, it's super cool. You look like, I don't know, you look like a piece of art because that's like, there's these waves of light going through you.
Yeah, I just noticed that the sun has come to this point where it's like...
really great. It's great. Listen, I appreciate you being so forthcoming, being open to this, even from the get-go.
It's great to talk about this stuff. And it's so lovely to meet you.
Is there anything else you want to say? I feel like you might have something else.
Just that it was really, really, really important for me to be able to answer the questions in my life about my family, even though some of them were really tough. And I think the main thing that I really wanted to share was just how knowing my own history helped me really be present in my own life again. Not even again, for the first time. So none of it's super easy, but man, just the knowledge and the new connections, knowing where you're from, it's so important. And I did not understand that before. You know, when people talk about their roots and their family histories, I had no idea what that felt like. I was a little envious, and now I know, and I get it, and I'm here. Like, I feel like I exist. I have a right to be here, and everything changed. So, yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, listen, you have a good evening. Okay.
Thanks, Jayne. You too.
Thank you, Mike, for sharing your story with us. It's really incredible how your community looked at adopting kids like something that was cool. And because of that, there isn't any social stigma around foster youth as a whole. We could really stand to learn that kind of thinking here. That whole idea really leans on the phrase, "it takes a village." What we need to do is change our cultural narrative to support those villages. So thank you, Mike. Next week, Jayne Amelia speaks with Charity Chandler Cole. Charity is the CEO of CASA of Los Angeles. For those of you who don't know, CASA stands for Court-Appointed Special Advocate, and she's all about racial justice, social justice, education, and child and family well-being. Charity spent time in foster care and also in the juvenile justice system as a vulnerable teen, and believes strongly in changing the narrative and outcomes surrounding system-impacted individuals. She's also an author and wrote Stranger Danger, her new book about her traumatic teenage years. So join us next week for Charity Chandler Cole. Thank you for listening, and be well. If you see something, say something. If you suspect a child's health or safety is jeopardized in any way by parents or anyone else, contact the Child Protective Services Agency in your county. 24-hour hotlines are staffed by trained social workers who will help you through the process, and you can do so anonymously. In California, you can call the Child Protection Hotline at 800-540-4000. So if you see something, say something. You might be saving a child's life. If you want to know more about becoming a CASA anywhere in the country, go to nationalcasagal.org, and in LA, casala.org. And if you want to know more about becoming a foster parent, check out the National Foster Parent Association at nfponline.org. There's also faithfosterfamilies.org and adoptuskids.org. There's tons of other information online as well, so you can just hunt around. We also want to thank the supremely talented Christina Apostolopoulos for her beautiful original music. You can find her music on Spotify or Instagram at Christina Aposta. And also thank you to Yukon Har for his engineering. Thanks for listening, and if you like what you hear and you find it as valuable as we do, please rate us and hit subscribe. You can also make a donation at bonusbabies.org. See you next time.